With the introduction of the trains, we now have the ability to much more easily share electricity between facilities. Now, because we have extra facilities in other locations, that means we have additional power requirements, and the trains themselves actually require some power as well. So the existing network has been supplemented with a brand new power station, which you can see off in the distance. I chose that location because of its proximity to the coal. There's really just the one coal node there, but it is a pure node, and with a Mark II miner, it is more than enough coal to supply all of those coal generators. Now, the problem with that location is that there is not any water nearby, so we've had to erect this very substantial pipeline pumping water from this tiny little pond all the way over there. So we've got the 4 water extractors here, and this is unusual to find this here because it's actually only like 300-400 meters away from my main base, and I just now discovered it. But that's okay, it's got enough room here to have all 4 of these water extractors pumping water and able to take care of all of the H2O needs for that coal generator plant. Off to the side of the pipeline is a network of power poles, which allows us to send power back to those water extractors. And here we see the miner sitting on top of that coal node with this level 4 conveyor belt. You can see that it is still way under its capacity, so that we could actually double, maybe even triple the size of this power generator plant. Here's where the water and the coal enter the facility. You can see we've encased the pipelines and the elevators in a box of glass, although the rest of the facility is just out in the open. And the reason for that is that I don't know how to build around these gigantic smokestacks, because we can do one of 2 things. We can encase the facility in a giant glass or concrete and steel box, which is just going to look really strange from a distance. There's not a great way to make that look fancy. It's just giant boxes sitting in the middle of the landscape look annoying to me. Then the other option is to just kind of leave it the way that it is, and I think that's kind of what I'm leaning towards, but I'm doing some experimentation and we'll find out what looks better. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times 2, 18 of these coal generators. Now, with each of the coal generators operating at a maximum capacity of 75 megawatts, that's 100%. They can be overclocked to 250%, but we're just leaving them be right now. So that's 75 times 18, and we should be expecting 1,350 megawatts from this guy. But we're now seeing a capacity of 2,100. So the reason for that is that this is actually tied into everything else. Just the 2 facilities, actually, just the main base and the Factory 2.0 are running off of this coal generator plant, as well as the coal generator plant that is a little bit more towards the northwest. We haven't really added up anything for the oil refinery, which is going to be able to produce its own power and maybe even feed back into the full network, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, because that's not even in the planning stages yet. So this is what we're looking at towards the inside. Now, I would have liked to have bumped this out a little bit further, and you can see right back there, that is a... what is that resource? Caterium ore, that's what it is. I wanted to say quick wire, but that is what's being produced from the Caterium ore. So moving back towards our coal generator plant, I did want to kind of bump that out and allow for a little bit more room on the middle section where you can see all the resources are feeding into the coal generator plants, but we ran out of space. So on this little island, I wanted to kind of keep it self-contained, and that tree, it like respawns every single time I come back, so I can't actually get it to leave my base alone. But this is like exactly the amount of space that I had. If we go over towards this side here, you can see that we're right up against the edge, and over there as well. So building these gigantic rectangles on the landscape is not that easy. I had to kind of redo this a couple times in order to find the exact number of coal generator plants that would work, because they have kind of weird shapes that aren't exactly aligned with the width of one of these squares there. So we ended up with the need to squish it all together, and it does fit. It just isn't great for trying to traverse as a human. So you can see that the water is doing a little bit of a weird thing. Now, I like the way that it looks coming through here. Maybe we'll make a walkway if we can get it to snap towards the center of this area. But the water going overhead is on the outsides being pumped down into these coal generators with the splitters there. Now, the inside ones are actually traveling all the way towards the end, and then they loop around, and then they feed back towards that outside network. So theoretically, this should be producing the correct amount of head pressure for each of these coal generators, but I don't have a great way to measure that other than visually, and you can kind of hop in here. You can see the total amount of capacity and the flow rate, but the way that it changes so rapidly with the needs of these coal generators, as well as the fact that the water extractors kind of pulse on and off, means that it's hard to get this exactly right. So the fact that they're all kind of connected to the same network means that they're basically split evenly, but if one of them has extra needs, we might run into an issue where it stops feeding some of the other ones. So as far as the solid material that these require, the coal doing a slightly different thing is coming in from these elevators. It first splits off from this single input into the two, which then travel a little bit overhead. This is the only thing I really did to make this like a better facility for humans. Is it kind of takes some of these off the ground so you can walk through. So then it just goes through kind of a full line of the coal, which splits off at each opportunity, and the main middle section is what kind of sends it down, and then each of the splitters sends it to the individual coal generators. So since they're way under its needs, there's not really much of a problem here. If I were to double the size of this plant, I might have to think about it, because there's a little bit of a delay in the way that these conveyors appear to function. You can see that it's like as it needs some more coal, it kind of reaches a max velocity of the conveyor belt, so that could be considered a loss of efficiency. But since we're just doing the 18 here, and these level 4 conveyor belts are just incredibly fast, we have absolutely no problems whatsoever. So this is essentially the end of the tour. There's really not much to see here other than the fact that it's an impressive amount of smokestacks and a lot of noise coming through here. But I tried to make it kind of as pretty as possible. Again, I couldn't get as many of the coal generators as I would have wanted. I would have probably shot for more like 20 or 24 as opposed to 18, but we just ran out of space on this little island. And I'm actually curious to see if this is the permanent edge of the map, because it just drops off and certainly looks like it would be. But I wouldn't put it past the development team to actually be working on an expansion area. And the reason that this is all untraversable is because they wanted to like not allow you to build there so that they could put some more mountains or something. I don't know. But I kind of like the way that this is tucked off into the corner. Like I said, producing a ton amount of electricity right now, 1,350 megawatts, although what we can see right here is 2,100 from the full grid. So you can see this is producing more than half of our current, wait, more than half. I guess the other facility over there is overclocked like crazy, because that one only has 5 coal generators, and this one has 18. And for them to even be close is, oh god, I gotta go and visit that location at some point and figure out what's happening, and maybe increase the efficiency and make another station like this. But this might be the last of the coal generator plants, because we're moving on to the fuel generators, which are not necessarily more efficient, because it's really hard to go apples and oranges, or it's hard to go apples and apples with the coal and the fuel. So it's unclear where these will stand in our further electricity needs, because we'll move on to the fuel generators and then maybe like a turbo fuel, and then ultimately nuclear and potentially solar, which could be cool, and even some wind or hydroelectric could be really cool. I don't know, but for now this is taking care of our train needs, pulling water from that tiny little pond, coal from that node over there, and overall just doing a stellar job. So thank you guys so much for watching this episode, this little tour. If you have any ideas about how to make this look prettier, I mean, I can take a little trip to the other side here so we can see it from a distance, and you'll realize that it's not really an issue, because I never see it even when I ride these trains. But if you have any ideas about how to make this look better, please let me know. It may just result in encasing the lower half in some sort of walls or glass, and then leaving the smokestacks clear. But I kind of like it the way that it is. But anyways, let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.